Good afternoon, everyone. Our chair, Councillor Ange Turner, can't be with us tonight, and we don't have a vice chair for the panel. Please, could I ask for a nomination from the meeting, please?
Could I nominate the vice chair of Scrutiny, Michael Green, chairs this evening?
Is that agreed by members of the panel? Thank you. I'll hand over to Councillor Green.
Thank you, Darren. Thank you, Councillor Sharples and colleagues. Can I welcome everyone to this meeting of the Scrutiny Budget and Performance Panel. As Councillor Sharples has said, I am Vice Chairman of the Scrutiny Committee, and we have panel members present in the Civic Centre this evening, along with our officers. The meeting is being live streamed via YouTube and will be available on the Council's website after the meeting as well. Just housekeeping, no fire drills are expected. If the alarm goes off, please leave by the emergency exits at the back of the room and congregate on the car park. Please turn mobile phones off or put them on mute and switch your microphones off when not speaking. Councillor Hancock is a member of this panel and he's joining us via Teams today. Welcome, Councillor Hancock. And other members are also joining via Teams. If you are doing so, please remain muted and indicate at the appropriate time when you'd like to speak, and I'll endeavour to bring you in at that time. Moving on to the agenda, apologies for absence, please.
We've got apologies from Councillor Angela Turner, who's been substituted by Councillor Hancock, and from Councillor Colin Coulton, who's been substituted by yourself, Chair.
Thank you very much. Moving on to item 2, are there any interests that members need to declare, please? Nope. Thank you. Okay, moving on to item 3 then. Minutes of the previous meeting, which took place on the 14th of November. Are we content to accept those as an accurate record of the meeting, colleagues?
Yes, Chair.
Thank you. That's moved and seconded, and that's accepted. Thank you. Okay, turning to item 4, matters arising from the previous meetings from pages 9 onwards. Colleagues, any comments on the recommendations on page 9? Okay, page 10 and 11 and 12. Okay, pleasing to see some of these recommendations have been completed. Are we content to accept the recommendations which have been completed and remove those from the list for future meetings, or are there some that we wish to keep on up? Councillor Walton.
Yes, Chair, I would like to keep on minute 6.3 of the 20th of June 2022 reserves for planning appeals, and minute 7.2 again on the 20th of June 2022 delivery of the capital programme. I would like those kept on the performance panel.
Thank you, Councillor. We're all happy to keep those on. Okay, thank you. And the other ones which are completed can now be removed. Thank you. Turning to item 5, which is on page 17 of today's agenda and is the main item. Can I welcome Councillor Foster, the leader of South Ibble, supported by Vicky Willett, Director of Change and Delivery. Thank you both for coming this afternoon. And can I invite yourself, Councillor Foster, to say a few words by way of introduction, please?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Good evening. I'll be brief, and then obviously this because we want to be questioned. So this report presents the performance of the corporate strategy at the end of Q3, which is the 1st of October to the 31st of December 2022. With the 15 projects in the strategy, 93% or 14 are rated green or complete, and 7%, 1, is rated amber. This is the last time that the 2022-23 corporate strategy projects will be reported to the Scrutiny Committee and then Cabinet. The projects that are not yet complete will either be carried forward to be delivered as part of the 23-24 corporate strategy. And there's 3 of those, colleagues, and they're due to be complete by the end of March 2023. Sorry, The projects, so we're going to get carried forward, or they're going to be complete by the end of March. Of the indicators, 62.5% of the corporate strategy measures and 64% of key service delivery measures are performing on or above target within the 5% threshold. Just quickly, Chair, for me, some highlights from the report. The Youth Council project is now complete, having met its initial objectives and delivering projects against its identified themes, offering a chance for young residents to use their voice and influence decisions within their local communities. South Ribble Christmas Light Switch On was a huge success. The biggest attendance to date with over 5,000 people. There's been significantly larger interests from local businesses and traders as well, with 33 in total, and approximately 75% of these were actually local traders. Round 2 of the Household Support Fund was accessed by over 2,000 families, 1,500 pensioners and 444 other individuals. As you're aware, the allocation for round 3 of the fund will be in the region of £340,000. Council tax and business rate collection remains very strong and above target performance compared with last year. And finally, Chair, there's one project that is deemed as off track, which is the deliverability of the affordable homes. Well, I'm pleased to announce and tell the committee that the scheme in Bamber Bridge, Mackenzie Arms, is literally almost complete, and we should be getting the keys in the next 2 or 3 weeks for all those units. And as you know, Jubilee Gardens next door, that's now due to commence in June. Following the challenges we had with the significant uplift in costs, we've come to what it appears to be now a much better position with the negotiations with our contractor and Homes England. With that, Chair, we leave ourselves open to any questions you and your committee may have, and we look forward to them. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Foster. And we will have a number of questions. I notice there's some other councillors present as well, both in the room and online, who may wish to come in later as well. Can I first of all take us to page 18, please? Oops. Page 18, paragraph 10. And in that paragraph, reference is made to the permitted tolerance of 5%. Please, could you talk us through why we actually have this tolerance level and what the purpose of it is, please?
Thank you. Yeah, the tolerance level is for when we're within that threshold. It just helps us to give us an understanding of how close we are and to quantify that a bit. So just saying whether something's on or off track would perhaps be a bit black and white. So it helps us to understand whether we're within the threshold for achieving the target, and therefore, I suppose, how much we need to concentrate or not on improving it. So that it's just a historical 5% that we set when we set the measures. It could be reviewed, increased or decreased to a higher or lower tolerance.
Sorry, Councillor Adams, please.
Thank you. Taking you to page 19, paragraph 16, appears to be a great deal of activity with regards to the community hubs here and at Appendix 3. But how do we know the activities are making a difference and benefit our communities, and how can we potentially quantify that feedback in terms of the impact that it's made? Thank you.
Thanks, Will. The quantifying success is always challenging, isn't it? Particularly when you're surrounding community engagement. But I think that you just need to look at for me, Will, it's the very different feedback and models that all the hubs use and feedback. And we've got 2 hub chairs sat with us, and you do things very differently in Leyland and Fountain than you do in Penwitham, but both models work really well. And it's that feedback that you're providing us and your colleagues are providing us about success. You also then look at the feedback we get from our residents as well. And we speak all the time to our local residents about the interactions. You just need to look at the stuff like the HAF programme and the holiday hunger schemes and the other schemes that we've done together. And you physically, and I think it's within Aniela's report where we've contained a lot of the actual references to comments that we received back from the residents. So that's a good indicator. And I just think you need to look at how a lot of the schemes that the hubs are undertaking as well, how popular they are, really popular they are. And then you look at and speak to the stakeholders, the key stakeholders throughout the borough, who all feed back that they really like the work that the hubs themselves are doing. But we're always, we're not always patting ourselves on the back, Will. We know there's always more that we can do. And I just think we need to keep engaging, keep talking. And, that's why annually we refresh the corporate strategies and requirements for the hubs, which are produced yourselves. So I think it's a really good question, because quantifying success with something like that is difficult. So we let everybody comment as best as we can.
Okay, right, well. Okay, yeah. Councillor Walton.
Yep. Good evening, everyone. I've got a question on page 19 and 20. It's the developing the visitor offer in South Ribble, and refers to the winter events. Can you tell us what efforts will be made to ensure that the whole of South Ribble is part of the strategy and all events are taking part in every area?
Thanks, Karen. I think you've always got that commitment from us that every area of the borough feeds into it. It's just that, and I do accept that there's one or two events, historic events, that are bigger than others. The Leyland Town Team Switch On, for example. But again, please remember that's managed by the Leyland Town Team themselves, not the council. So you have an absolute commitment from us, as we'll always look to support and encourage every area of the borough, and that's what the Discover South Ribble's doing. And hopefully the committee has seen that, particularly over the last 2 or 3 months, we've been championing every single area of the borough, or the businesses, community groups. You drive through Penwitham recently, there's the Discover South Ribble advertising up on the lamppost as well, which is good. But yeah, an absolute commitment that we'll support every area, Karen.
Just linking in with that, if I may. So how would that interface with the likes of Marketing Lancashire to bring that very much that local focus to promoting South Ribble?
So thanks, Chair. That's a really relevant point, because I think that I know the Chief Executive has been speaking to the Chief Executive of Marketing Lancashire. Was it today or yesterday? And this is the very question that we want to see, because as well as we're happy that the entire county of Lancashire is marketed, South Ribble is the critical element for us. And so the discussions that they had, Chair, were about how they link in together. We haven't got an absolute answer yet, but we will have by the summer, because to be bluntly honest, that's part of our continued agreement to fund Marketing Lancashire, is how they champion Discover South Ribble as part of their campaign as well. So it's work in progress.
Yeah, thank you. Look forward to that. Councillor Sharples, please.
Thanks, Chair. My question is on page 19, paragraph 17. We talked about the Youth Council, and I can say it's an absolute privilege being the member for youth. It's really it's a major success for me. They're actually meeting in the room next door with the mayor, interviewing the mayor tonight. They've been involved with all kinds of projects before Christmas. They're working on some youth mental health stuff at the minute as well. It really has been a great success. It's gone from, I think, 5 members when I started. I think there's 11 now. The 5 members originally were all females. I think we've got about 4 gents. So it's balancing itself out. It's going really, really well. But my question is, how does the work of the Youth Council interact with this council as a whole? And how can our members engage with the Youth Council? Some thoughts on that, please.
Thanks, Colin. Perhaps you're best to actually come and sit here and answer your own question, since you're the lead member for the youth, and you've done a load of really, really good work, or particularly over the last 12 months, Colin, and we thank you for that. I think we don't want to be too prescriptive as an administration about how the Youth Council works, because we want them to do what they feel is important, but clearly that interaction with the main authority is critical. And again, very much like we've done with the community hubs, I think we require the leaderships of the likes of yourself and the mayor and the officers to just help nurture and develop, because I do think it is critical as we move forward now that we do need to take that step up, because I do accept that perhaps the interaction between elected members and the Youth Council isn't as good at the moment as it perhaps could be. But we've always said that would be the next stage, isn't it? So it's a piece of work that we must do, the post-May elections. And I would like to see the members of the Youth Council perhaps actually speaking at meetings of the council. because there's lots that we do as an authority that impacts on the youth. And this is perhaps we could pick some specific items where we could engage with them and ask them to come to council, for example. But then individual members in the individual wards may wish to engage more heavily. I think it's important that the community hubs and the youth council come together as well. So we're not going to be too prescriptive, but there is certainly more work that needs to be done, Colin. I would agree with that.
In terms of the youth council, what will success look like moving forward? How will we know that the youth council has been successful, say 4 years from now?
I think the saying is the proof of the pudding's in the eating, isn't it? I think it needs to be embedded and established fully, Chair. I'd like to see the youth council taking on some policy development, perhaps, for the authority. And I'd like to see it flourish. I'd like to see the youth council embedded within our local schools and just seeing what the art of the possible is. I think we'd all agree that the young person's voice isn't heard as much as it should be in decision making. And so success for me would be that we still have a fully functioning youth council in 4 years' time, that it's embedded much more within our local schools, and that they are, without doubt, we can evidence that they're participating in decision making for young people.
Yeah, thank you. Councillor Walton.
Thank you. My question is on page 21. It's about the number of new savers with the Unified Credit Union. And the numbers have been off track for some time, apart from the encouraging Leyland Trucks employees to join. And whilst it's good that Leyland Trucks is engaged and launched their offer to employees on the 1st of February, what about those not in good employment or could be perceived in need of the credit union services? What more could be done to encourage employers and employees to join?
I'll bring Vicky in a minute if I may, Chair, because again, Karen, it's a really good question because we don't make excuses, but the credit union stalled slightly when we were trying to get it up and running because we started it through COVID. And then, yourself, particularly with credit unions, it's not the type of thing you do online. It's a face-to-face interaction. So we did slightly struggle with getting that up and running as quickly as we wanted to. But I think we just need to really keep focusing on this. And for me, it's about access to the credit union. I think and that comes down to comms and that comes down to a number of issues, doesn't it? But there's absolutely the demand. We know there's the demand. It's getting better access to more of our community to it. Karen, I don't know if Vicky, if you have anything to add.
Yeah, I think building on the success of Leyland Trucks, we're probably now looking to expand that to more businesses. So I think it's next week or the week after we're attending the Shout Business Networking Expo. So we're trying to promote it to more local businesses so that they can in turn have the confidence and the understanding to share information with their workforce. I think sometimes it just is one of those things that you need the information about and then they'll include it in their internal communications as well. So lots going on to spread the word about that, as well as doing some promotion with our own workforce here as well. So we've got quite a targeted plan of action to make sure that we're increasing the members.
Okay, can I ask another question? So we've asked before about providing outreach in other parts of the borough. Is there any progress being made on that? And with the target being consistently missed, what impact will this have on the future viability of the credit union in South Ribble?
Thanks, Councillor. The viability is fine. If you look within the report, we've actually managed to pay out a dividend to some of the savers as well. The interest rates are keeping really, really low. So it is a viable entity. I think we mentioned last time, and it's something that we're waiting to post May, is I think the community hubs here are critical. Our community hubs they are our closest link to our local communities, and so we need to somehow look how we can link in more directly the community hubs with the credit union. Maybe that as you say, and we've discussed this before, haven't we? The credit union might have to go to the hubs and go to the communities, and so we're looking at that mobile platform as well. But it'd be something that hopefully we start rolling out in the summer.
Is there any way we can promote this amongst people that maybe have more limited financial means, that maybe in employment on minimum wages and so on, and there are challenges out there. What more can we really do? Because I mean, the trend is worse than Q3 last year. So we're going in the wrong direction. I can understand the reasons for the difficulties that we had initially, but we're going in the wrong direction currently. And as a result, we're not getting this service out to people that may well need it.
Yeah, and Vicky's going to mention something in a second. The answer is yes, Chair, of course. And I think I'm correct in saying I think some further promotional information is going out with the council tax bills again this time about the availability of the credit union. But Vicky, have you got something there you're going to add?
Yeah, I was just going to add in, thank you, Chair, that the credit union, because we're linked into a wider network of credit unions through Unify, they've launched a new £1 loan, which is part of the Greater Manchester Authority. So it's a product that we're able to access, and that is something that will provide loans for people who are experiencing tighter finances due to rising household costs. And because we've got that profile, we can hopefully then spread the word a bit more widely through having that wider kind of using a bigger product such as that's endorsed by a bigger authority. We can, to some extent, get the benefit of the wider communication around that. So that's something that that Unify have been able to bring to us as another product that they can offer to kind of add to the benefits of people locally.
Councillor Adams.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I think in terms of trying to set up a financial establishment is a difficult thing, and it's something which I think we are probably ahead of the game potentially of other local authorities on this. In terms of what you spoke about with the community hubs, I think that's a real interesting development of how this could be improved. In Penwitham, we have the Penwitham Business Network actually sit on the community hub. And I think that could be a real asset in terms of supporting them to support the local economy and things like that. And I think if that could be spread across the whole borough about how we work with not just individuals but businesses as well, could be really powerful in terms of the credit union and it actually being a success.
Yeah, thanks, Willie. And it's a good idea. Maybe one of the takeaways from today is that I think it's important that as quickly as we can, we need to instigate that meeting between the chairs of the hubs and the management team of the union, the credit union, and sit down and we're not prescriptive as we say. So I think we need to start sharing ideas as quickly as possible and widen that stakeholder group. So we'll take that away and we'll set that meeting up as quickly as possible.
Yeah, thanks for that. Councillor Sharples.
My next question refers to page 24. 40% of service requests are received via self-service channels. Will the review of forms bring this indicator on track by the end of the year? Garden waste is highlighted as a success, but what else is being done and what other services are going to help us increase self-service?
Yes, the review of forms is ongoing at the moment, and I would imagine that process should help. We're going through we're looking at how people interact and use those forms. They're not always the most straightforward when you come to them, and they can be quite. There's a range of forms for a number of different things. So we're looking at how we can perhaps consolidate them so that we have one form for a process rather than have lots of different ones, or have one form under a theme, for example, bins or waste or whatever it might be. And then hopefully by improving those forms, they'll be a bit easier to use, and as part of that work we'll be doing lots of user testing, so getting customers to actually use the forms before we implement them on the website, and tell us whether they work or not. So it's all well and good us sitting as officers going, oh yeah, that works, and in fact it would be good to get some councillors to test them as well, so that we can get proper feedback that says yes, that might make sense to you, but it doesn't make any. I have no idea what this means or how that would work, because when I do this, this is how I want it to work, or I want to be able to pay in this way. So we'll be doing lots of user testing, and the hope is that will then encourage more people to use the forms, both through the process of encouraging people to test them, because then hopefully they'll get used to using them, but then also through making them easier to use and doing more communication around the new forms when they're launched. So I am hopeful that and it's something that we need to continually review. We can't just do it once and then review them again in 6 months. We need to be doing that ongoing user testing all the time, so that we're refining them and improving forms so that people can access services better digitally.
So you're confident we'll be on track by the end of the year then, or?
Confident. Ask me again in a few months. I think we'll definitely have a good proportion of the most high volume forms improved, and therefore should have more people using them. But again, it's about how we promote that, about how we spread the word, and about how we use each other to kind of to show people how easy it is, hopefully, to do things online.
Okay, we'll come back to that in a few months' time then. Okay, Councillor Adams, please.
Thank you, Chair. On the same topic, how do we engage with our residents on what they think of our website and self-service channels so that we can increase self-service?
Yeah, well, first thing I'll say, Will, is we need to do more. We do need to do more about this particular issue. So obviously we have our surveys, and I think it's fair to say that one of the next surveys that we do with residents will be very much aligned around the website and communications, digital communications. You know, the website's at a position now where we're comfortable with it. We think it is fit for purpose, but there's always more we can do. And clearly we've said all along, haven't we, that we want to get this to be a seamless exercise and experience, and it isn't, and it still isn't, and we know that. So I think, you know, let's not be afraid to ask the question, which we will, and then we can start working on making sure it's as best as it can possibly be, because we all know that absolute digital is the way ahead for most things now. And so we need to get better, and we need to ask the questions and then take on board what the feedback is that we get.
Just a matter of interest, how much feedback are we getting about the website? Is it sort of mixed? Is it reasonably good, or is it just as a matter of interest?
It's interesting you say that. It's like Darren keeps a close eye on everything that's going on with the questions, because we got some feedback over the weekend, Colin, which wasn't particularly positive, if I'm honest with you. But that's important, and we engage as a member of the public, and we engage with it, and we deal with it. So we don't get a huge amount of feedback on the website and the forms. At particular times of year, like now, is a sensitive time of year because the council tax bills are going out, the garden green waste subscriptions are going through. So it tends to be a hiatus now, if the greatest amount of feedback that we get. But then we just keep working through it. So yeah, this is the most sensitive time, the period between Christmas and Easter.
Yeah, thank you. Can I take you to page 27, paragraph 43, and that's the update which is provided about the Mackenzie Arms. And Councillor Foster, you gave a further update at the beginning of the meeting. But further in the report, the project is rated as amber, and it hasn't yet met its target date. I appreciated your further update, but using the criteria, should this not have been rated red in the report?
Thanks, Chair. It's an area of subjectivity. So the 5%, when it comes to report, depends on the type of project. And I promise you I'm not giving a local government politician answer here. So because the project's still within budget, and it's still slightly under budget, but the programme has slipped slightly, it's still deemed to be within the acceptable parameters of the amber rating, and that's the reason for that. Now, if the project was over 10% increase in budget, for example, then it doesn't matter if it's still being delivered on programme, it would immediately go red. So it's because there has been slippage on the programme, but also that slippage has been agreed and acknowledged and dealt with 6-8 months ago. We still deem it to be that it's amber. And just so you're aware, my understanding is that I'm going to actually, Michael, Chair, give you an exact date. I think it's the 14th of April. Everything is absolutely complete on that site, is my understanding.
Okay, and turning to Jubilee Gardens, again, you did mention that at the beginning of the meeting, but is the project on track against the original project plan? And is it time that became a red rated project as well?
So the answer is that it's not on track against the original programme, because the original plan was that it would have started by now. But what it is now back within budget. So again, we're going to have to review that, Chair. Of course we are, but it is clearly outside the original programme parameters, but the budget's still well within the approved budgets that council set. But, we'll take it away and we'll have a look at it, because it is a fair and reasonable comment. If we're going to have a 6-month delay, perhaps it does need to move.
Thank you. Any further questions on either of those two projects? Nope. Okay, Councillor Walton then, please.
Yes, thank you. First of all, I've got an observation on page 27, item 44. It refers to locations of EVC charging points. As one of them is King Street in Lostock. And it's also repeated again on page 42. As far as I'm aware, there is no car park in King Street, Lostock, and there is one on Hope Terrace in Farrington. So can we note that, please? And my question is on page 28. It concerns Worden Hall, and it says Worden Hall is marked as complete, but is the venue now taking bookings? Is the venue making money against its business plan? What kind of events have taken place there? And could you provide some information on the amount of hiring of the hall and the expected income during the next financial year?
So Karen, all that technical information was within the budget.
Right.
So about the budgets and how much revenue we're expecting. Obviously, clearly the cafe is fully open and functioning. We are literally just at the point where the new tenants are going to start occupying the building, and just the website and Discover South River, we're having a big push now on the comms. There's actually something going to come out this week about taking bookings, so you can book Worden Hall again now. So the answer to your question is yes, it is up and running. And the detailed financial analysis is actually within the budget. And I'm not being rude there, Chair. I don't know. I can't recall off the top of my head, but I do know it was within the budget papers from last week.
Yeah, thank you. Councillor Adams.
Thank you, Chair. Again, page 28, paragraph 48, in terms of the delivery of affordable homes. Obviously, the Mackenzie Arms has been spoken about tonight and is important, and certainly the photographs which have gone out today look very impressive in terms of what's been delivered. But what else is being done to deliver more affordable homes as part of this project? The need for affordable homes is bigger now than it ever has been. And what's the council strategy as we move forward in the months and years ahead?
Thanks, Will. So the council strategy is two or threefold. So in my view, we need more extra care schemes for starters. So we need more Jubilee Gardens type affordable homes for our elderly population. We also then need to utilise our land better, so that we can utilise council-owned land to build the properties on. And that is something that the executive is working through currently, looking at where there may be availability of land for council housing. We need to look differently at how we fund council homes. And there are a number of different schemes being looked at up and down the country. As you'll be aware, Will, in my other job, it's something I'm working on down in London, at the provision of private homes that are converted into council houses. And what's critical here in all these schemes that we mention, this isn't, because there's often a question about what is affordable rent. This is the LHA rate this is the true affordable rent. And that's what our houses should always be, because that's what the level the government set it at. So we need to look at how we can fund it differently. But then also finally, Will, I think we need to be, as an authority, we need to be looking at how we can take the 30% affordable on the schemes that are presented to planning. We need to see how we as an authority can take them on. We can buy them, we can fund them, and we can then rent them out to our local community at true affordable rents. So there's different. So we're looking at the land, we're looking at opportunities, we're looking at different opportunities of funding. But I think we need to be brave, and we need to really commit to building hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of new homes in the short term. So I'm talking the next 2 to 3 years.
Thank you. Yeah, and that sounds really promising. Just a note not to forget the young people as well, who obviously particularly in my area of Penwitham, we've been struggling with the affordability of housing, and I think there is a real need to support young people in terms of getting onto the housing ladder by being able to provide affordable homes as well, which I think needs to be integral in this. Thank you.
Yeah, I completely agree through you, Chair, Will, and I think that's why in the likes of areas of Penwitham where we have development ongoing at the moment, where we should be brave and we need to understand quickly, i.e. in the next few months, how we can take on the affordable element of those properties for our community, which is legal and which is sound and we can do, and we need to, it's just how we go about funding it.
Councillor Foster, you talked a lot then about affordable rented properties, which is important. But what about affordable home ownership schemes and how we're promoting those?
So I think one area where the private sector is probably doing okay here, Chair, is that the house builders are providing lots of opportunities still for our community to enter into home ownership. There's a number of different schemes available out there, isn't there? We know shared ownership, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that has been a priority for the house builders and the government for a number of years. But our priority is and remains the social rented sector, the council house, because there's just a huge shortfall, Chair. So as far as we're concerned, we can always do more, we can always do better. But the issue of house ownership and the shared ownership and the reduced rates is something that our community's got loads of access to that already. For me, it's about the rented side of things, and at a much lower rate than, unfortunately, the private sector do offer properties for rent at. So that's the priority for us.
Yeah. Councillor Adams again, please.
Thank you, Chair. Taking you to page 29 on paragraph 53, looking at homelessness prevention. Obviously, it's a significant challenge for local authorities to deal with. I think as the pandemic happened, we kind of eradicated homelessness in 24 hours, even though we're told it's so difficult to manage. But for a local authority, how confident are you that we'll be able to bring this indicator back on track? As it's saying at the moment, it's worse than Q3. What more can be done from us as a local authority? Thank you.
Thanks. Well, I can give you no assurance whatsoever that we'll get that back on track, because the situation's getting worse and worse month on month. There's more and more of our community presenting as homeless. A decision to be fair, the cabinet here, the authority the council made a decision to actually, we never ever turn anyone away. Now, unfortunately, this is a central government funded initiative, is the homelessness, and it can be quite restrictive on when people declare themselves or present themselves as homeless, but we made a decision, it's costing us money. We supplement that to quite a significant figure at the moment, so that anybody that presents as homeless that meets our criteria, which is quite wide ranging, then we support them. But unfortunately, we're having to support them in hotels and bed and breakfasts. There is this issue is just going to get worse and worse, and so I think we have budgeted it again, and I think that's through to June. We've decided that that's the current additional budget that we've set, and you know what? As long as I'm leader of this council, it will continue past June as well. But we need much bigger hostels, more additional homes that we can provide for our residents presenting as homeless. It's a critical problem and there's no easy solution. But again, this is where we try and work closely with our neighbours at the county council, where we work closely with Chorley and Preston as well, where we try and support one another. But we need to get a grip of this, and by what I mean by that is, unfortunately, central government needs to fund the additional places that we need in the bed and breakfasts and the hotels, so that we can look after our community.
Councillor Adams, did you want to come back?
Yes, thank you. In terms of there is talk about an action plan being produced for the senior management team. How will members be engaged in this, and what role could we have as scrutiny on that as well?
I don't know if Mick's here, but it's the Councillor Titherington's portfolio, isn't it? Yeah, Mick absolutely undertakes he will engage fully with the scrutiny committee when that draft policy is ready, and all your feedback and input is critical to that. So Mick's always done this, and he brings everything of this nature to the scrutiny committee. So you have absolute assurance that it'll continue to happen.
Thank you. Councillor Walton.
Thank you, Chair. My question is on page 31, paragraph 56, and it concerns as you might know, the number of telephone calls answered within 90 seconds and percentage of abandoned call rates. And these have been off track for some time. In the past, you provided some information, which you have done on the report, why these targets have not been why they have been off track. But what can be learned for the future to improve this service?
There's loads that could be learned when you look back, Karen, if we're being honest. There was the whole issue of the, as you say, the pandemic. There's then the vacancies that we're holding in our customer services team, and then, as you recall, and then the wholesale upgrading of the telephone and IT system all at the same time. Then additional demands on the team due to the something like the grant funding with the cost of living, etc., etc. What I can say to you, Karen, is it is getting better. All the data indicates it's getting better, and we have learnt our lessons. And and that's hopefully, you can see that now. We have learnt our lessons. The management team are on top of this. We're recruiting additional staff. The telephone systems and the IT systems, which work much better. And rightly so. You ask this question every time, and I wholly support that, because it needs closely monitoring, and it will continue to improve and is continuing to improve.
Sorry, Councillor Foster, can you enlighten me? You say it's getting better, but the trends are actually worse than Q3 last year.
I can assure you, Chair, that it is improving. And remember, this is a look back to December. We're now in March, so I don't know if Vicky can add to that, but they are improving significantly.
Yeah, I think the general trend is going in the right direction. We're seeing some slight blips up and down, but I think just to reassure you that we work really closely with the service, and we are learning all the time, and we're making changes to how we will do this type of implementation in future, albeit we probably won't do something on this scale again all at once in future in that environment, in that situation. I think that's one thing that we definitely learn from it. But we're tracking it really, really closely, and we have weekly meetings with the team to look at what we can kind of foresee or prioritise or plan, so that we can keep things on the right track, both from a staffing perspective and from a service delivery perspective. When we know that certain things are going to happen, can we plan better for it? Can we be more proactive? So please be reassured that we are working really, really hard on that.
Thanks for the reassurance, but the figures are not good, as we can all see in this report. I can remember a few years ago I've been having cabinet responsibility for Gateway, and if we had any figures like this, these would have been totally unacceptable at that time. So yeah, best of luck with that, but we clearly need to improve for the good of residents that need to contact us and need advice, assistance, etc., as we all know. Okay, thank you. Can I take you over the page 32, and the top of that? So that's with regard to the percentage of planning applications decided within 13 weeks, and that's going in the wrong direction as well. Why is that, and what steps are we putting in place to make sure that starts to improve?
Thanks, Chair. That's the this is one of those examples where one planning application skews the data. And it was just one. I haven't got the details of the application, but we can send it to you if you want to see it, Chair. But there isn't a problem here. It was just one application, was slightly outside of the statutory deadline for determination, and so that's, as I think it does say that within the report. But we can send you the details. That we don't have concerns. There's no downward trend here. It was one application that that skewed it, and we'll send you the details of that if you'd like.
Thank you. Do you have any concerns over the amount of applications being deferred by the planning committee? Because more often than not, I do attend planning committee meetings, and I've noticed something of a trend in recent times to defer more and more applications.
I think it's a fair question, Chair, but I think it's about, because if you look at it's the reasons for deferral. So the planning committee aren't deferring the applications because there's a particular major issue with the quality of the submission. 9 times out of 10 at the moment, my view is it's being deferred to try and allow additional dialogue between the local residents who are impacted by the development and the developer. Because what we're desperately trying to do, and I know Councillor Flannery said this a number of times to me, that to try and get people to, if we can, to agree to any additional changes, or to get to a point of agreement. And we managed this. Remember, we've done it a few times on the test track on some other schemes where the local residents ended up supporting the application. So it's been quite a deliberate attempt where I do think that the planning committee are just trying to give the residents a voice and say, we know the statutory obligation and statutory requirements here is for us to approve this, but let's take another, have one last go and see if we can deal with X, Y, and Z together to the satisfaction of the local community. So I think that's the reason. So given the fact that I see it as a positive, or at least an attempted positive, it's not due to the performance of the authority or any problems with the quality of the reports. I think it's just trying that additional piece of community engagement. But what we're finding, Chair, is actually the developers, on the most part, are quite happy to do that. They would rather see an application approved with their local community, maybe perhaps a little bit more behind them than has happened historically.
Councillor Adams, yes.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I mean, just in terms of on that, and obviously as a member of the planning committee, I think it's important that we thank the officers within the planning department. I think as a committee, we do kind of force the issue in terms of that consultation. I think a lot of the time, from a national point of view, the national planning framework, I think, often doesn't allow for that consultation. Certainly, there's no statutory responsibility for a lot of the developers to have that consultation. So I think, in fairness, I think it's a positive thing that we as a planning committee we kind of want that, and we're promoting that. But I think it's an important point to make, that we thank the officers for their role in terms of being the between residents and developers. And I think hopefully that makes for a better community where these developments happen. So that's just an important point, I think, making. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Councillor Sharples.
Thank you. Yeah. We were talking earlier about the telephone calls answered within 90 seconds. And we notice the report mentions that 12 apprentices have been recruited, but how long will it take for these apprentices to be trained and working at full capacity? And are there posts in place for when they're fully trained?
Yes, Colin, that we always have said that our apprentices are here to stay. They're a very, very, very important part of our workforce. If I may, Chair, I thought Vicky knows the details on the training, but my understanding is that they're getting up to speed really quickly, and on the front line, so to speak. But then there's a load of additional training and support and courses that our team need to go on.
Yep, so in terms of the apprentices in that team in particular, they're picking up, as it says in the report, they've been prioritised to complete training to support the kind of high volume and the forthcoming queries, so garden waste, annual billings and local elections enquiries, so the things that they can then pick up quickly and enable more experienced members of the team to be able to deal with perhaps some of the more complex queries. And we've also got a training and development officer who's now been appointed to support the wider training. And just in terms of apprentices, we have just launched an apprentice network. So we have a graduate network, which is for kind of the more the higher level qualifications, where we've had graduates join us, and that's been really successful. So we've applied a similar sort of network for apprentices so that they can learn from each other as a peer group. And it's our policy that where we do take an apprentice, we have to have an identified vacancy for them to move into at some point in the future, so that it doesn't just end and then they then disappear. We should be investing in them as part of our future workforce.
Yeah, I was going to ask about we know the importance of apprentices. I was going to ask about the need for experience and capacity. So how is it going to be balanced to improve these indicators? But I think you just answered that.
Thank you. Councillor Walton.
Thank you. My question is on page 32, and it refers to the number of near misses reported and acted upon. And these numbers appear to be very small for the size of this organisation. Please could you talk us through exactly what this indicator is and what the numbers mean, and what confidence do we have that this indicator is being reported and health and safety is being taken seriously now and in the future?
So thanks, Karen. So I can absolutely assure you that health and safety remains the number one priority of the authority and always will. You'll be aware, because this matter was discussed at the governance committee last week, I think it was. So this is where the more is actually, it's really perverse saying this, but you want you want as much reported as you can on an EMIS, because it gives you more data and it's reported through. What we think is happening here, Karen, is that we think that our understanding is the near misses are still being reported, but it's because we've transitioned onto the new system that it's not filtering through and being recognised within the data capture, which is something that needs sorting out quickly, because we haven't changed the method of works with the neighbourhoods team. So as I think it was Asim said last week at the governance meeting, this is something that is urgently being reviewed as we speak. So there is that trend down isn't a positive trend. We want it to be at least as good, the reporting, as when the team, particularly with the waste team, were working for FCC. So we are hoping that quite quickly we'll have some positive updates on that and to understand why what has happened. But we are monitoring it very, very closely.
Can we expect some updates about this through scrutiny? Because it is a very important issue for us at the council.
Absolutely, and I'll also, as soon as we're in receipt of the update, I'm more than happy that we'll write to the chair with it as well. Yeah.
Councillor Adams.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry, just going back to the apprenticeship network from the previous question, which sounds really positive. Are we working with our major stakeholders in this, in terms of our major employers, BAE, etc., about the future of work and secure, well-paid jobs where there is learning and further development as part of it? How do we expand that in terms of across the board, in terms of bringing maybe the smaller businesses in on that as well, and kind of build that relationship as a council? Thank you.
So thanks, Will. If you're free on, I think it's Wednesday morning, you can join Councillor Flannery down at Salmesbury, where there's another roundtable breakfast on the economic development, and that's if you remember, just recently at Cabinet we approved. Jay's presented the economic strategy that we're developing, and that's critical, is that interaction with our local businesses. So we've got the team here and the team widespread everywhere, and part of that economic strategy, if you remember at the beginning when Councillor Flannery read it out, it was about jobs and opportunities. So we're really well linked in with our local business group. It's getting bigger and bigger, and he takes the breakfasts all around the community to different areas, and is as you know, Jay could sell snow to the Eskimos, so he's good at what is happening. And so I do, and it may be helpful for the committee, an opportunity, because I know time is, and a lot of you do still work, but if you do get an opportunity, we can extend at any time an invitation to come and join us at these breakfast sessions and the seminars, and I think you'll take away how really positive it is, because the local businesses want to work and need the local authority, and the local authority want to work and need the local businesses, and I think it's an area that we're starting to do some really good work. Well, so again, we'll invite you to it, and please do join us if you. We'll ensure that when we have these forums, Wednesday's going to be clearly too late, but in the future we'll extend an invite out to the members of the Scrutiny Committee and do please come and join. Sorry, and we're also launching the Skills Factory, I've just been told as well, sorry.
Thanks for that invitation. I'm sure we'll take that up. Colleagues, any more questions? Okay, Councillor Hancock, any further questions or supplementaries?
No, fine, thanks, Michael.
Okay, thank you. Members not on the panel then. I've got Councillor Mrs Green, Councillor Tiverington in the room, and I think I can see Councillor Chisholm. And is that Councillor Tomlinson online? Councillor Green, yes.
Yeah, it's just a question, actually. Yeah, I mean, I'm quite aware how hard the officers are working for planning. They have some quite big agendas. We can see with the size of the reports we get through how much work's gone through, and there's no mean criticism whatsoever of the officers. But I do feel that if we could get the planning issues through to the committees slightly earlier, to give us chance to query, to give us chance to perhaps defer, and give us chance for the developers to come back with something concrete, it would then avoid all this unnecessary deferring at a point when the developer gets fed up and just goes off to the inspectorate, in which case then it's out of our hands and we have no say, and it goes into an inspectorate who's in Bristol that may not know the local area, and consequently get a result in that development that's not to the benefit of the local residents. And that's just an observation of mine, really. And also on the fact of the telephony, can I just ask, I mean, it may well be going on anyway, but now that now and previously when there was COVID, there was a lot of home working, can the main sort of, managers and that, can calls not be diverted automatically to the home systems? So at least if people need to contact them and they're at home from working, they're able to answer and what have you, because there's constant complaints from residents that they can't get hold of people, they can't speak to anybody, and they're getting a bit frustrated about all this. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Foster.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. And I apologise, Mary, I've got my back to you. It's the way this is set up. With regards to the calls, there already is now. If you remember, as part of the package of improvements, there's call diversions in place now, and to nearly every officer within the authority that is appropriate. So we're pushing through with that to make it more seamless, and so that residents, when they log on or go online to the website, they can more easily get that direct contact to the individual officer that they need to speak to, or individual department. So again, it's work in progress, but we are continually looking to make those improvements. With regard to the planning, Mary, I'm not going to mention the particular application that you're referring to, but again, what I will take away, Chair, is that I'll speak with Councillor Flannery, and it may well be, and Councillor Flannery will take a view of that, and we'll speak with the planning officers to see if there's any areas where we feel there could be further improvements made, because obviously we've got statutory deadlines that we have to work to with planning applications, and that also includes about the publishing of the agendas and the information as well, and nothing frustrates me more than any to follow items, so we do try to keep that to an absolute minimum.
Thank you for that. Councillor Tivington.
Thank you, Chair. The compliments that have been made to the planning staff have prompted me to sort of just expand upon what Councillor Foster has said in relation to the situation regarding homelessness, because I think people or the committee will realise is that the problem is escalating because of the shortage of homes, but many of the people who are presenting as homeless do have many and varied complex issues to resolve, and I'd just like to put to the committee to commend our housing staff for the way that they are dealing with the situation that is there, and also to add is that reference was made to the everybody in situation when we were during the pandemic, and as Councillor Foster has said, is that we have retained that principle of everybody in, and it is costing us money, but we believe it is the right thing to do, and as Councillor Foster has intimated, is that we hope that that will continue after June, or indeed a more long-term strategy and investment into the situation is there. But I mean, for the moment, I'm sure the committee would agree with me, is that the staff in the housing department in particular are dealing with a very difficult position and are doing a grand job. Cheers.
Thank you for that. Councillor Tomlinson, did you have a question?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Okay, it's with regards to Councillor Mary Green's comments about the planning committee, and I think the application she is referring to is a rather fractious one regarding a dog training facility, if I'm correct. The applicant would do her application when it was meant to be heard last December, and then it came back in February, was deferred, and we ran out of time. And it seems to me that there's loopholes in planning regulations that need tightening up. If that helps on that question at all. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor. Okay, any other questions or comments on members not on the panel? Are there any members of the public in attendance who wish to ask any questions? No, okay. Right, can I thank Councillor Foster and Miss Willett for attending this evening? It's been interesting to actually speak to you and engage with you, and we look forward to seeing you at future meetings. Thank you very much for your time. And if we can now formulate some recommendations, please, colleagues.
Thank you, Chair. Just to bring together some of the threads from the discussion, some potential recommendations include the panel thanks the Leader and Director for attending and answering questions. Future reports include the impact of community hub projects on local communities. The panel welcomes the commitment to the Discover South Ribble brand and events to celebrate all communities and areas of the borough. The panel looks forward to the links between the Council and Youth Council being embedded and strengthened in the future. The panel is grateful for the offer to facilitate a meeting and partnership working between the credit union and community hubs. The panel appreciates the commitment to present the homelessness action plan to a future scrutiny meeting and commends officers for their work on this important area. The panel expresses concern at the call answering time indicator and welcomes the assurance that this is being addressed. And the panel asks for an update on the review of health and safety and near misses, that it be provided once available. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Darren. Colleagues, anything to add to that? What about something about these self-service channels? I think that question was asked by Councillor Sharples. I think it's one for us to watch moving forwards. Okay, we're happy to accept all those recommendations then. Thank you very much. Okay, that brings us to the end of this evening's meeting. Can I thank everybody, members of the panel for attending, members not on the panel, and once again, Councillor Foster and Miss Willett. Thank you for your time and have a safe journey.